Okay, so here we are one more time for another lesson. This time around, what we're going to be taking a look at is how we can apply some of the knowledge we've been giving you guys throughout the last couple of issues of PHP MySQL into creating something real world. We're going to look at how we can create a guest book. You know what a guest book is. I mean, you've been to the websites where they have a basic form up and they say, hey, sign our guest book, put your name in, put your email address, leave me some comments, and most of the time you probably leave. I don't know, from time to time you may actually sign it. But, you know, this is something that a lot of beginner web developers look into creating for their own site. Often they'll actually go out on the web and find ones that you can more or less just kind of plug into your website and away you go. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the time to actually show you how to create one from start to finish. And then you can take this and really, you know, add to it and make it really fancy. We're going to keep it not too fancy for the simple fact that poor Logan is going to be doing lots of typing. So with that, Logan, take it away.
Okay, well, first we need to actually create the table that's going to store this data when people sign their name and add comments. So I'm going to load up the MySQL monitor and change over to K, change over to the MySQL bin directory, load up MySQL, and we're going to use that BuzzDB database that we created, and inside there, create the new table. So create table.
Now he's going to give it a table name here, guest book. I mean, that kind of makes sense. Now he's going to start specifying all of the fields. And after each field, I'll go ahead and get him to stop after each one and kind of talk about it. Because this very first field that he's creating, auto ID, has a few interesting things going on in it. Which, by the way, you'll notice how he's just dropped down to the next line.
Yeah, as long as you don't put the semicolon in the terminator, you can type out your queries on multiple lines. Keep stuff a little bit neater. So that's the auto ID. It's basically going to be a unique ID number, so we can refer to each individual record in this table.
And what he means by unique is basically you see those keywords primary key. What this is going to do is it's going to make auto ID basically unique. In other words, every record that's entered, there's no way that we could ever have two records with the exact same auto ID. But actually, before you move on from there into the next one, there's a little bit more going on in there as well. I mean, we have init, unsigned. I'll let you back all that up.
So int unsigned, what that means it's going to be an integer with the default length of 10. It's going to be unsigned, so it won't be able to hold negative numbers.
Okay, and
not null, basically, because that's kind of interesting the way we're going to actually use this. Because with that auto increment, have MySQL keep being in charge of incrementing this field every time we add a new record. We're going to actually from the query actually enter a null, but because it's not null in auto increment, MySQL isn't going to take that null. Instead, it's going to take and add on to whatever the last ID number was.
So basically, what's going to happen is MySQL is going to take care of auto incrementing a number in there automatically.
Okay, so next, the name, the actual name of like when people sign their name.
And it's a varchar type up to 64 characters.
Then their email, same thing. And the comment's going to be a little different. We don't want to specify length, so we'll just use text. So it's a undefined length of a message that they could enter. And it's date auto int. This is how we're going to actually store the date. And instead of using an actual date field, we're going to store this as an unsigned integer. The reason for doing this is the actual format that we'll be storing dates in the database is in a timestamp, which in a sense is just basically a really long number holding the number of seconds up to the current date. And we'll be using a certain function inside of PHP to actually read that and convert it into a more easy to read format.
Very nice, very nice.
And there we've got our table created, so that should be all we need to do in MySQL Monitor for this lesson. So we'll go back.
So now it's all about creating a new web page, I guess you could say, that has some PHP functionality in there that allows us to get to that new table and put information in it and pull information back out.
Yep. So I'll start a new script, and this time I'm not going to start out with the PHP block first. First I'm going to write the actual form that'll be used to accept input. So
Just to let you guys know, there's going to be quite a bit of typing going on in this particular lesson. So, you know, you might want to listen to some music, take a break, I don't know. You can listen to music while you're just watching these letters type across the screen.
Alright, now here's one trick I'm going to put in this script. Whereas before I had to specify what script, what action, so where the form is going to be submitting to. And same as last time in the var test script, we're going to be submitting to ourselves. So instead of having to go ahead and figure out what we're going to name the script, we can actually, the name of the script is actually stored in another predefined variable. So I'm going to type that out here. I'm not inside of a PHP tag yet, but inside of these double quotes, because up till this point, PHP is ignoring this until it sees an opening PHP tag. So inside here, I'm going to go open up a PHP tag, and I'm going to have it actually echo out that predefined variable. And that variable is $_server, and the element in that is PHP self.
So basically what you're saying is this is going to be replaced by the name of whatever this particular
whatever the script is
document
called.
Okay, cool.
So then I'll just close out the PHP tag, and let's see. So I'll go ahead and end the form here. Let me see. So now I'm actually going to, well, we'll get a little bit fancier than an all-out basic form. I'm actually going to specify a font. Just make this look a little bit nicer.
Too bad I don't have Angie in here to talk to while you're typing. Because then there could be like some conversation. Because I know if I have a conversation with you right now, it would totally screw your typing up. He's smiling ear to ear, by the way. For those of you wondering, Angie is in the other room right now, filling out CDs and putting stickers on mailers. Bless her heart. That's a good question. I wonder how I can just keep you guys entertained while Logan types all this stuff out. And kind of weird seeing things on the other side of the glass now. Usually I'm the one doing the typing, and, you know, I don't care what's being said because I'm in my own little world doing the typing. But now here I am sitting here just kind of waiting with you guys, watching them type all this stuff out on the screen, looking around the office, checking my email. Nothing new happening. That's good. Everything seems to be pretty quiet. What else can we do? We could always go over to the site and see what's happening there. Anything new up? Let's see. Going over to the forums and... Nope, nothing really new going on. So as you can see, he's now typing all sorts of interesting things. Setting up the form for name entry, email entry, for comments. Right beside name, we've got a text field, basically. And then we've got email and a text field there. And then we got comments, and up underneath comments, we've got a big old box, so he specified a width and number of rows for that the viewer can type in their comments.
So that's basically all for the form. I'm also going to type out the actual HTML tags because this is going to be more like a complete page when we're done.
He's talking again. Thank heavens.
Whoops, that's a tag. So, title will be guest book. So that. lots of HTML stuff. So there we actually have a form, and form set up to submit to itself using the method post, and then specify the input fields. I'll be inside this.
And as a reminder, we're using post because
that way it'll keep the URL clean. There's no reason to see the actual variables that are being sent.
Absolutely, because I mean, if they've added a really large comment to this, that could be really messy.
Right. Okay. So now we need to.
We could test it, couldn't we?
Yeah, just see what it looks like, and yeah, make sure it'll submit to itself. So let me go ahead and save this as. Let's call it guestbook.php. Be real original. So load it up and see what it looks like. And looks like I missed field.
Good thing we did some testing.
Email type equals text, name equals txt, email. That's interesting. TY. No input. It's input type.
That was called troubleshooting.
That wasn't even an input tag. So now, name, email, and no missing a submit button, which is really easy. Just go in and add the actual submit button. So I'm going to put this inside of a center tag. Keep the submit button centered out. Refresh that. There we have the actual submit button, and click it, and it goes to itself, meaning that the action being echoing the PHP self, so echoing the name of the script inside here. So we use PHP to keep track of. So if we ever rename this guestbook any other file, we wouldn't have to change it. It'll always submit to itself no matter what it's named.
So we're being efficient.
Okay, so there we have. We can put input, but nothing happens because it goes nowhere.
So now I guess what we need to do is a couple of things. We could start storing data, and then start pulling the data back out on the same page, showing the data back to whoever the viewer is at the time, kind of encouraging them to post the comment themselves.
Right. So we're going to actually, first we'll store the data because we can take a look at that from the MySQL monitor real quick. So I'll open a PHP tag above all the HTML and go ahead and close it. So we'll do all our PHP stuff before we even start sending HTML to the browser. Now, we're going to need to actually establish a connection just like last time, exactly like we did in the counter. So instead of retyping that out, I'm just going to go to the counter, grab those first three lines where we pulled in that config file that stores all our database host, what user we're using, what password we're using.
Remember, we made that way back at the beginning of this VTM.
So then we actually establish the connection using that information in the config file, and then we select what database we're using. Again, that was stored in the config file. So I'm going to grab those first three lines out of the counter script, copy those, and paste those in to the guestbook script. So now we're basically all connected, ready to go. This is a very, very useful 3 lines to keep somewhere so you can reuse. So now let's go ahead and check to see if there was input. So let's see. Let's do that. Store that $var equals. Remember we used get, and then later we used $_post to get input. So doing the exact same thing as for $post, and we're looking to see. We could do some advanced checking, go through and make sure they enter their name and their email and so on. But for the purpose of this, we're just going to make sure they enter their name. So as long as that we name this text field txt_name, as long as there's an element named txt_name, we'll say it's okay and let them let that record be written to the database. So we'll start an if and say, let me see. If I want to do it the same as before, do $len equals strlen $var, so we get the length of whatever characters they typed in for their name. So as long as len is greater than 0, then inside this if block, we'll do all our writing to the database. So as long as they wrote something in the name box.
I'm going to add some comments inside that if statement, just letting, it's kind of keeping up with some.
So only write to database.
So it's just dropping some comments for whoever may come in later and reread your code, or even for yourself in case you forgot exactly what you was doing. Adding these comments can be very, very helpful and a big time saver.
So if there is in fact characters written in that name field, we'll go ahead and get the rest of them and store them. And we've already, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to use var here because we'll need that later. We'll need to know what the name was because we're going to be writing that to the database. So I'm going to actually call that name because we'll be using that in just a second for actually storing in the database. So now we've got name, checking the length of name, and we'll go ahead and, providing that name was written, we'll go ahead and get the rest of the input from those text fields and put those into their own variables as well. And this one, remember before when I talked about the register globals thing? We wouldn't actually have to be doing this. We'd be able to just access stuff through $_name. But again, if that's not turned on whatever server you're working on, you'll have to access the variables like this. So post, see if there's a txt email element. Store that in $email. Comment. See if there's a txt underscore comment. And now for the date, notice that there is no input field for the date. And what the date's going to hold is what the exact time was at the moment they hit the submit button. So it's not an actual input. We're going to store date is, we need to find what the time is right now. So far, the user has loaded up this HTML or this form. They've inputted data. They hit submit. And then this page called itself again because its action is set to PHP self. So then they hit submit. This code gets run, and they do in fact have a name. So the length is greater than 0. Now we've got the email, the comment, but now we need to find what the date is right now. To do that, you can use a function called time. What time will do is return, it's called a timestamp. It's basically just an integer, and it will return the date in seconds. So we're going to store that in date for being put into days. Remember, we made the date auto field an integer. So let me see. I'm going to go ahead now. So now we've got all the data together. We've got the name, we've got the email, the comment, and what the current date is. So now we need to actually set up the MySQL query. So we're going to say query equals, and query will be an insert into that guestbook table. And now we're going to go ahead and specify what exactly we're going to insert. We're going to be inserting into the fields. Actually, let's see. Yeah, so auto ID field, name field, email field, comment, the date. I called the field date auto because that's basically being created automatically.
Yeah.
So let's see. So insert into those fields, and then the values we'll be putting in those fields. So values will be null, but remember we set the not null in the auto increment. So this is all. So instead of being null, it's going to take the last value incremented by 1, and that'll be the ID for this record. So null. And now the rest of these fields, well, except for date auto, are their varchars, or kind of similar to strings. So we actually have to put them inside of quotes. Now notice we're already inside of a double quote. So if we put another quote here to start for putting the name in, that's going to end our string right here, and we'll end up with an error because we just have some random stuff after the end of the string. So we need to use a single quote because as far as PHP is concerned, once we're inside the string, it's going to be pretty much ignore this and let this just be part of this entire string that's between the double quotes. So opening a single quote, I'm going to put $name, which was, of course, what we got when we checked and saw what was in that element of $_post. So we're going to insert the name, the whoops, love the undo button, the email, the comment, and Now, even though it's not required to use the quotes when we're inserting an integer type, you can use quotes and it will still work just fine. And the other cool thing about that is if for some reason it didn't exist, it'd be very rare that time wouldn't work, but if for somehow date was empty and you tried to put just like if date was empty, this is what it would look like. You'd have an extra comma and then nothing. Because if date held, let me actually put that so you can see. So date holds whatever that time function returned. If it held nothing, then this would be a SQL syntax error because you had a comment but then didn't specify anything. If we go ahead and throw date inside of single quotes, that won't affect adding an integer. It'll still work just fine. Also, if date was somehow not set or empty, it would still work okay. It would try to put an empty string in, but it would convert it to an integer and would be a 0. So it wouldn't be the correct data, but at least your script wouldn't completely break. So now we've got the query set up for actually adding this data. Now we need to actually run the actual query and feed it this query variable. So we'll do a MySQL query, and we'll give it $query, and also the reference to $connection, the connection that we established when the script first ran. So we'll go ahead and save that data to the database, or die, and give a reason for dying. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and put the output of the MySQL error function. Just in case it doesn't work, it'll give very verbose output and be very easy to track down. So with that should actually be enough to actually use this form to put stuff in that table. Of course, we'll have to use the MySQL monitor to see it, but let's go ahead and save the script and try it out. So let's go back. Let me refresh once to make sure I'm working on the latest version. Now, name, let's say jhawk, email the jhawk@hotmail.com, and comment hello. So let's see if this works. Submit. All fields were cleared. So let's go back to the MySQL monitor real quick and do select star from guest book. And look at that. We've got that record. Auto ID 1, the name we put in, the email, the comment, and there's the timestamp I was talking about. Basically, the today's current date in seconds.
Now let's see if we can make this a little bit more interesting. I'm at another computer over here, and I can get over to your local host. So basically, I'll just submit something. Now, if you just hit the up arrow and enter.
Oh, look at that.
Check that out. True magic, baby.
And, of course, the timestamp incremented by a few more seconds.
Absolutely.
All right, so now let's go and actually use PHP to load this record up and have it generate some more HTML to show these records. So back to the code. Now what we need to do, so we'll always leave the form visible. We'll just go below that form and start actually creating. This time I'm actually going to use an HTML table, and this is going to be kind of interesting because we're going to be using a table to display the results, but most of the table is going to be written by PHP. You'll see in just a second. Now back to more typing.
That sounds great. So I hope everybody out there is enjoying what we're doing, and good old Logan's over there working so hard to get this stuff typed in fast for you, and I'm just now yakking so that I'm keeping you company for a minute, so that you're not too bored. Hope everybody's enjoying what we're trying to do with 3D Buzz, and the videos that we've got in the works. Some really, really, really cool things coming. As far as PHP and MySQL is concerned, we've got some really neat things planned into the future. And we're going to be doing some graphic stuff with it. We're going to be doing banner rotation code. I mean, we've got all sorts of things planned that will really help you, inspiring web developers out there, add some very nice scripts into your site.
Okay, so now we've got the outline of a table here. Normally you'd add a tr, td, and then to specify your rows and cells and so on. But this is the part, this table is what's actually going to hold the results of the MySQL query we're going to run. And this is the part that's going to be written by PHP. So first, as soon as we're inside this table, we need to actually have PHP go ahead and load out those records so it knows what it's going to be writing. So I'm going to open up another PHP tag and tab on over. And you saw before when I ran this query, I didn't do $result equals the query. That's because I don't need to know what's in it. It's not going to be returning anything back out. Here we're actually getting data, so I need to go ahead and say $result equals, and then run the query. And yes, I'll be typing out the query variable in just a second. So query $connection. So
connection. There we go.
So all right, the query we're going to be running is, we need to do something very similar that we did when we ran the select star from guestbook, except that we're going to make sure we order by the date autos. Make sure we always pull records out in order. So it'll be almost the same, just add a little bit more. So select star order by, and then what field we want to order by, the date. So same as before, select star from guestbook. Then order by the date auto. So start at the earliest date and pull the records out in that order. So now we've run the query, and we need to enter a loop because we have an unknown amount of records, and we want to make sure we hit each record and then basically make a table row for every record. So I'll start a for, open closing parenthesis, for $I equals 0, so I'm starting at 0, which is convenient because we'll be matching index 0 that the MySQL query will return. So, and then we'll keep running until, or keep running as long as $I is less than MySQL num row. Oh, sorry. All right, MySQL num rows. You specify a result from a query you've run, and this simply holds or will return the number of rows that this query returned. So we want to make sure we run as many rows as we return from the database.
And basically, for those of you guys that aren't up to speed on databases, when he talks about rows, he's talking about number of records.
Yeah, the individual records, number of individual records. Okay, so and then finally, $I ++. So increment it every time this loop runs. So we'll open curly brace, close curly brace. So inside here we'll execute code for every record that we have in the database. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and actually get some of that data back out and put into some easy to use variables. So $name equals MySQL result, and again result takes in $result, so we're getting the results from this MySQL query that we ran. Now, before, when we got the record for the counter, we just assumed that it was going to be record 0 because that was the only record that we had in it. We never added more. In this case, we have an unknown number of records, and with this for statement, we're looping through each one. And so each time we run through this, I is going to be incremented. So I will be 0, then I will be 1. And that's what we're going to refer to which record we're going to be pulling out of the database. So we're going to put $I, this specifying what row or what record we're looking at, or that we're currently looking at. And then finally, the name of the field that we're going to be returning. So we'll grab the name, like, let's see. So yeah, let me grab the monitor so you can see this. So here we have the records. Now, this $I won't always equal auto ID. It's just going through and saying that this is record 0, this is record 1, and that's how this loop is going to run. It's going to run first time through. It hits $result, so this query, record 0, which would be the first one, and the name, this field, and then continue doing that for the next record and so on. So we load the name in and do the same thing for email and comments, and actually date. So let's copy that line 4 times. So we'll return the email out from the email field, grab the comment field, and of course the date field. Alright, so we've got our data loaded. Now we need to actually start doing something with that data. So next we go and let's see. I'll actually add this part in just a second once you see what's going on. We're going to make in the end it'll be a table, and each cell will have alternating colors. I'll add that feature in just a second. First I'll actually get the table to show. So we'll start an echo, Now I'll start a single quote. Up till now I've been echoing with double quotes, but in this case we'll need to echo some HTML, and the HTML is going to have double quotes when we specify like a name of a field or the width or color or something. So I'm going to use a single quote so that we can include double quotes and not mess the script up. So starting a single quote, I'm going to go to a next line. You can have multiple lines inside of an echo, and tab over a little, and there we are, starting the table row.
Yeah, just a second ago he was saying he was going to create a new table. That's not exactly what.
Oh yeah, this is an HTML table, not a database table. Exactly.
Yeah, and even then, inside HTML, it's not that it's a new table that's being created. It's new
rows
and
row.
Columns. Yeah.
Yep, my bad. Okay.
No, that's cool.
So
I'm just
TD
adding a little in.
Width equals 50%. So again, if we'd used a double quote here, the double quote would have ended. We would have had to use like different methods that get a little messier to keep this all together. So width equals 50%. BG color equals. For now, I'm going to set this to something. We're going to be enhancing this just a little in a minute and actually make the colors alternate. But for now, it'll be hard coded to.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sign.
So you're just going to keep them the same color every time for the first.
For the first run through, yes.
Awesome.
So start the cell and go ahead and give this a font as well. And here I'm going to. That will be the end of the first echo, because after this we're going to do another decision, use an if statement. So far we have an email field that we're going to be storing, and we have the box to enter the email. We're going to make the script smart enough so that if someone does put their email, it'll write their name out, but make their name a link, and you hit that link and it'll bring up your email program. If they didn't enter their email, it'll just show their name. So add a little bit of advancement. So that's why we were echoing and going on to multiple lines as we echo, but ending here because we need to actually run some more PHP code. So if so in order to do this, the same thing as how we checked the length of the name to make sure it's greater than 0 before we wrote it. We need to do a very similar check on the email. So after we get the email, I'm also going to go ahead and add $email_len equals strlen. So get the length of $email. So that way we have the length. Again, we could have just run that down inside the if, but to keep it a little bit simpler, just store email len, so we always keep track of the length of the email. So if $email len is greater than 0, so if we do need to put their name as a link, let me go ahead and block this in real quick. So back to echoing more HTML. So put this in bold and say name. So this is just text that the people will see in their browser. And so in this case, there is links to the email, so we need to go ahead and put it as a link. So we'll start an a tag, drift equals mail to, and then set this to whatever the email address is. Now here's one thing about working inside of single quotes. Before, when we set up the insert, we went ahead and said $name, whatever variables, even though we were inside of a double quote. When you're inside of a single quote, you can't actually use the use $ or use a variable. It'll just echo out. It'll actually echo out $email instead of what $email holds. So in order to get that, we have to actually use the dot to concatenate and add that on. So now at this point, we're outside of this section, adding on $email, and then concatenating back into more of the string. So mail to the email, and then again jumping back out, adding $, and the person's name, concatenate again, go back in, and the A tag, and that echo as well. So we echo out name and then actually create a link to their email and then write out their name for that link. Now, if they didn't put an email and email len is 0, we'll use else, block that in, and do similar except no link. So I'll copy that line, except that I'll take out everything and let it stop at, let's see, grab the entire A tag and take it out and echo only the name. And see, with that, that's the only decision we needed to make once we were inside code like this. So now we can go back out and start echoing HTML again. So I'll say echo, open a single quote, and now we need to actually show what comment they left. So I'll echo a new line, and on that new line in bold put, HTML, the most fun thing to watch being typed.
Yeah, that's okay. You're doing an awesome job.
So comment. So actually, basically print the word comment in the browser in bold and bold. Okay. And again, we need to concatenate $comment. So I'll dot comment dot single quote. Go to the next line. Just go back to and the font tag. And that cell, and start a new cell. We're going to put the date in an adjacent cell. So td width equals 1%. Basically, make this cell as small as it possibly can be, and still hold the information. Okay, start that cell. Start another font tag. Let me bring that. Inside font. And 5 hours later, actually echo out the date. And then finally, now, $, let's see, $date, remember, we just got that record, but that record holds the timestamp, which is very hard to read, and it just doesn't make sense to put that for a date, especially if it goes all the way up to year for time it's storing. So we're going to actually have PHP format that back out into a more easily readable format, more normal format. So date and $, show date equals, now we're going to have the date function inside of PHP take in, let's see, we're going to tell it to format by hours, minutes, seconds, and then month, day, year. So this date takes in 2 arguments, the first being how you want to display the date, and the second, the optional one, will let you specify a date that you want to format. So it'll take in a timestamp, or that basically that integer date that we had stored in $date, take that in, and then convert it into this format. So hours, minutes, seconds, month, day, year. And then this is what it will return out into $show date.
And they can, of course, find more information on how they can do formatting.
On php.net.
Exactly.
Right. Because, you can change all this around. Because individual characters like these colons and the spaces mean nothing to the function. Only certain letters and numbers, depending on how you specify them, will actually be turned in. Like H will be turned into hours and 24-hour format, so on. So this actually has $show date has the date in human readable format. So we'll echo down here where we're actually showing the date to the user, $show date instead of that really long number. Dot, and then open up the single quote again, And let's see here. And the font. And type this in the right order. And the cell. End of that table row. This being the HTML table.
Since we're in a loop, it's row after row after row with each record that we loop through.
Exactly. So that way we have a dynamically generated table. So that was a lot of stuff, but I think we can go ahead and save it out and try it and see if it works. So, and no, it didn't.
You're going to have an error.
Line 75. And I did not close unexpected. Looks like I'm missing an HTML tag. That's it. Okay. I opened my PHP tag. I didn't close it. So far, PHP got to the end here and said, what's a lesson sign doing out here for the table tag? We need to tell PHP that that's it. That's all it needs to worry about. So we put the end PHP tag. And then we can go ahead and refresh. And date not found. That's probably because inside the actual SQL I was going a little bit too fast. The name of the field. Our field is named date_auto, not date. Date was the variable we were putting it in, so we need to make sure we have that match. Date auto, the true name of the field. And there we go. Let's see. It's dynamic. It's got I think I specified stuff a little bit differently and did catch some things, but there you have an actual dynamic table. You can probably look into the HTML real quick and find out what's up with that.
See what's up with that.
That would probably don't even need the width equals %1 font, and we'll actually use a font. Font face equals. Did I specify? Yeah, we go set a size of 2. See if that helps any. Helps some. And I'll probably just take out the 50%. Wow, HTML's been obeying my tags more efficiently than it used to. This probably needs to be. This would work if you want to. Okay, see what I was trying to achieve here is I was trying to make this field take up as much space as it possibly could and squash this field all the way over. So what I did is I set this to 50%. What I'm actually going to do is tell it to try to use 100% of the width that it possibly can, and then this cell, tell it to use 1% of the width. And yes, that's closer. That's what I was trying to achieve, where this takes up as much space as possible, and this gets squashed over into the edge.
Okay, we're missing some things also. Outside of just the line issue, we've also got our name that's
not being set.
Right, along with a few things being repeated or something.
That is when you're hitting refresh, the browser resubmits the data, and you get it adds multiple records. It could add multiple record check. In order to fix it, you'd have to do a query first, see if that name already exists. If it does, not allow the record to be written. But first, the setting, the name field was missing. Name equals, I'll say name, probably didn't echo it out properly. It's probably inside. Yes, I didn't. Alright, this double quote, that was for the HTML to verify that it hit the end of the link, was outside the tag. Whoops. Like that. I had it outside the actual end of the A tag. No, I don't want to save as. And refresh it. And there we have the name.
That's nice. Angela's been in there and refreshed stuff like crazy.
Yep. And yeah.
So I see that. Right now all the names have got little links. So that basically you can click on them, and up will come your default email, and you can send them email. And go ahead and throw in another record real quick, one without an email, just to show them what happens.
And I'm going to go ahead and just put. And check. Okay, and here's something we'll have to look at in just a second. I went in and started a new line and submit that. So my name's not a link, which is good, But we put stuff on a new line, which would kind of mess up the formatting if someone had typed neat paragraphs and all of a sudden it's all thrown on one line. We need to, and the reason it's doing that is the record is actually being stored with the new line like it's supposed to be. The problem is the HTML doesn't show a new line as a new line. It shows a BR tag as a new line. So we need to actually convert that new line into a BR tag for it to actually be displayed correctly. So what I'm going to do is we need to do a little bit more formatting, this time with comments. So it's kind of like where I formatted the date out into show date. I'm going to go ahead and make a $show comment. And that show comment, now we need to find some way of turning new lines into BRs. There's a built-in function in PHP to do just that. It's called NL2BR. And it takes in whatever you want to convert new lines to spaces to. So $comment. So we'll take comment in, turn new lines into BR tags. Put that in show comment. Well, as a matter of fact, we don't have any reason to keep the old version of comment. So we can just reassign comment instead. I'll take show out. So there we have comment first equals the actual record from the database, but then it equals whatever it is with BR tags.
Looks good.
So that way
we
don't have to change the one down here like we had to do for date. Let's save that and refresh it. And there you go.
Very nice.
And as you can see, Angela also typed stuff on new lines.
Yep, she sure did.
So that's pretty much it for a simple guest book.
Let's alternate the color real quick.
Oh, okay.
For the different rows.
Okay.
Be good to know how to do.
So
It'll at least introduce modulus into the whole mix.
Okay. So here's the two places where I specified cell color. Let me go ahead and set those up and get those ready for actually storing a color in a variable instead of hard coding it. So I'm going to end the string, concatenate, close it up, and then actually go and put, let's say, $BG underscore color for our variable name. And I'll just copy that line and paste it over the color I have down here. So there we have. Now we need to actually specify a color for BG color. So I'll go in right before we actually start echoing out all this HTML. I'll start a new if statement and say if $I modulus 2. Open bracket. Don't like the way it's seen. Okay. So close bracket, and we'll go ahead and set this up to have an else. Lock that in as well. So if I modulus 2, we'll set $BG color to equal, let's say equal that first color we had, so $E. Otherwise, let's use E0, like such. Yeah, like that. Okay. So now I have our color set up. So I'm modulus 2. That'll basically just give the remainder of I divided by 2. And if it's anything other than if it's odd, then it'll have a remainder, and you'll get a background color of this color. Otherwise, you'll get our alternate color.
So odd and even.
Exactly. So go ahead, grab that, and there we go.
Oh, look at that! Isn't that looking just nice? Okay, so if you want to take 1 second, pull the code back up, and just kind of recap over the entire thing.
Okay, so we've got, first thing we did was we created some of the HTML code and then the initial form that we were going to use. We did a little trick in the action to make sure to have PHP fill in the name of the script so we don't have to keep track of that. It'll always submit to itself. And then, of course, set the submit method to post. Specified our fields, their types, and their names. So then we went and we actually established through PHP, established a connection to the MySQL server. And we went in there and we started using the predefined variable $_post, which held any data that we might have submitted. Check to make sure that we did in fact write a name, and if we did, go ahead and write all the data in our form into the database. By first loading it into variables and then actually putting those into an insert SQL command, running that command. So finally we went and added some more PHP that wrote a sort of dynamic table by going and creating as many table rows as there were records in the database table. So we had to go in there and load out the various fields we had, and then do some special stuff. It added and we created an extra variable to hold the length of the email to decide whether or not we should even put the email. We formatted the comment to correctly display new lines, and then we went and formatted the date to show in a more human-readable format. And of course, added alternating background colors to the cells.
All right, well, that's beautiful. So with this, I guess all you viewers out there, if you're interested, see if you can take this and jazz it up. If you come up with something really cool online that's functional and make it look a little bit nicer than this, hopefully a lot nicer than this, post a link for it on 3dbuzz.com up under the PHP section so that we can take a look at what you've done, what you've learned from this VTM right here. So with that, that's going to conclude this section, and thank you very much. See you guys.